Happy lunch hour, guys. All right, so by now we've probably all heard about this $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill. All the money, all the tax money, all the borrowed money that we have sent people to Washington to figure out how to spend for us because they're so responsible with the checkbook. Okay. As the rest of us are trying to figure out how to pay for groceries, how to pay the electric bill, how to heat the house, how to avoid losing the house, hopefully keeping our jobs and whatever, I wanted to give you some of the money that was spent or is planning on being spent. Let's put it this way, because the Congress has not passed this yet, but the chances of it not passing are ridiculous. They want to go home early for Christmas. It's can't work till Friday. We have to beat the weather. So, we'll give you, 12 hours to read this 4,000 some odd page bill, right? Okay, so again, we go back to the Nancy Pelosi, you have to pass it to see what's in it type thing, okay? Same thing again. Mind you this, I just want to give you this real quick. They should have had this done September 30th. They missed that deadline. So they voted themselves an extra 90 days. They missed that deadline. So they voted themselves an extra week to pass the budget and miraculously got it done in a week. Couldn't get it done in 11 and a half months, but managed to get it done in a week. Here's some of the lovely ways your tax dollars are being spent. I want to give you this first. It's $1.7 trillion. $858 billion goes to defense spending. How much of that's going to Ukraine? That's beside the point. Okay, we're now up to over $100 billion that we're sending to Ukraine. So now we can talk about $758 billion that's for our defense. How much we can spend on defending Ukraine is amazing to me, because we can't spend $5 billion to put a wall up around the southern border, but we can spend $100 billion to protect Ukraine's border. Just saying. Okay. But that leaves $772.5 billion in non-defense discretionary spending. So let's talk about this one. How about $575 million made available for family planning and reproductive health? Get this, including in areas where population growth threatens biodiversity or endangered species. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this is taxpayer-funded Planned Parenthood? Just kind of worded a little different. But notice how we had to throw in the biodiversity and endangered species in there. So now population control is an environmental issue, according to Congress. How about this one? Okay, $410 million to reimburse Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman. How many of those countries could you even find on a map? Okay, for their enhanced border security. And at least $150 million of that should go to Jordan. But again, we can't do anything about our own border security. Just saying. Okay. $1.5 billion for Customs and Border Patrol for border management requirements. $1.5 billion. $339 million for Customs and Immigration for, get this, non-detention, means you can't use this to jail any of these border crossers. Non-detention border management requirements, okay? And they are prohibiting the use of getting anything that will acquire, maintain, or extend border security technology and their capabilities unless they're improving the processing. So we're going to increase the budget to let more illegals in. Okay? Get this one. $30 million for the Patrick Leahy, Vermont, Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant Program. Gee, I wonder who those are going to, and why would you have to name it after a senator? Okay. $3.6 million for a project called the Michelle Obama Trail in Georgia. I want to know where that one leads. Okay. This is good. $3 million for a program for pollinator-friendly practices on roadsides and highways. So we're going to spend $3 million to make highways more bee-friendly. Yeah, because that's where the bees like to go. They like to go down, I-10 somewhere. They don't go out in the fields anywhere, right? You're killing off the bees like crazy with all the shit you're spraying from the sky. But let's spend $3 million to make sure that the bees are okay in a highway. Okay. This was a classic. $2 million for the Great Blacks in Wax Museum in Baltimore. What, Madame Tussauds isn't good enough anymore? Now we've got to have a specific race-oriented, discriminatory museum? I don't know, just saying. I got no problem with putting Martin Luther King or George Washington Carver in wax. Put them in Madame Tussauds just like anywhere else, okay? Why do we need to have a $2 million museum that's paid for by the taxpayer in the congressional budget, okay? How about $1.2 million for LGBTQIA plus pride centers and another $1.2 million for support services for DACA recipients? In other words, helping illegal aliens with your money, okay? At San Diego State Community College, okay? So a community college needs $2.4 million to help illegals and LGBTQ people. That's just some of the crazy stuff I can find in this spending bill, where our taxes are going. So in the next couple of weeks, while you're trying to figure out how to make January's mortgage payment, or how you're trying to figure out how to pay for Christmas dinner, just remember, the politicians in Washington, they don't care. They'd rather spend money on stuff like this rather than helping the food pantries, putting a veteran in a warm house, putting a meal or a present under a kid's Christmas tree, taking care of the American public. That's what our politicians are doing, guys. 2 years ago, we had a policy of America first. Now, we have a policy of Americans last. We can give up everything we have so we can give it to somebody else who didn't earn it. Welcome to Biden's America. Pinball out.